Hey everyone, Matt Pisarcik from RazorEmporium.com. Getting ready to do another awesome review video. We've been asked by popular demand to talk all about double-edged blades and whether someone can tell the difference between different kinds of double-edged blades in the same razor handle. So we're going to do a double-blind shootout right now. Let's get started. All right. Per standard Razor Emporium protocol, I am using the most boring soap in the world, Paraso, white for sensitive skin. I know, guys, but guess what? We are reviewing this today, not this. So if I use some fancy fragrance soap that I really love, then I'm just thinking about this wonderful soap and not evaluating what's at hand. And what is at hand are 3 Gillette revamped fat handle techs. I would consider it the Goldilocks of razors. A razor guard that is so well loved, it has been so many times copied over. Everyone seems to have had a version, whether they tell you or not, of the Gillette Tech head because it's such a phenomenal shaving head. We got 3 of them here, identical, all loaded with different kinds of blades. And I have been told that one of these has a very aggressive blade in it. One of them has a very vintage blade in it, and one has a Goldilocks kind of sweet spot blade in it. And nobody knows. I don't know. And it's for me to try to decide. So, without further ado, we're going to give number 1 a couple strokes here. Well, it goes through the hair for sure. My first assessment is it has a little bit of a tugging, just a tiny bit. A little more than I'm used to. So my first thought is that this may be the vintage. Maybe number 1's vintage. I'll put it over here. Before I run out of cheek space, face space, whatever you want to call it, we're going to go with number 2. Even more slight tugging feel. So I would then put this one over here. Maybe think number 2 is the vintage. Maybe number 1 is supposed to be the sweet spot. And number 3. Number 3 seems to go through the hair a little bit easier than the other 2. Yeah, it makes me want to go quick, which is always... The blade is nice and smooth and efficient. I find myself just going and just kind of just rolling right through it, which I like to do. Some people want to sit there and take 30 minutes to shave, and that's cool. I respect that. But, yeah. Let me go back to number 1. Maybe it wasn't the blade, maybe it's just my beard prep, you know. The fact that I didn't get out of a shower and I don't have that ultra smooth feel. So, you know, double-edged blades have been around for almost 120 years. You know, Gillette started doing R&D for their safety razor blade, actually with the help of MIT, if you didn't already know that. Turn of the century, 1901, 1902. The first double ring prototype came out in 1903 and started being on sale, you know. They've gotten thinner over the years. They used to be really, really thick. They've gotten to be different shapes. Now we have the same shape about after 1933. Stainless steel kind of became a theme, 1940s, 1950s. So materials have changed from carbon steel was always before that. And then the only real good way to make stainless steel comfortable is to put a coating on it. Because alone they're kind of jaggedy feeling. So then there's all sorts of coatings, chromium, platinum, all these different finish options that they go kind of over the edge itself. But you think to yourself, if there's a coating on the edge, how is the razor still cutting? Well, the coating is extremely, extremely thin, so the metal basically still cuts. I don't know, I'm finding myself liking number 3 the best. But this is such a mild razor. I wouldn't be surprised if number 3 is a feather. Just because, with back to the pairing, you can have all the different blades you want, but its performance is really gonna be based off of the handle, and vice versa. That you can have a wonderful razor handle, if you know the right blade with it, may not be the right thing. I'm gonna go back to number 2. I'm having a hard time knowing which one's which. Maybe this is just to teach you that, with something especially like this, like a Goldilocks razor, the Gillette Tech, man, it can take lots of different blades and still perform nicely. Some razors are much more blade specific. I'm at a loss. What all these different coatings and all these different materials mean, I always tell people, doesn't really matter. It's like reading the ingredients list on the beer label. Okay, this beer's got more wheat, this beer's got more hops, this beer's got more malt. Okay, what does it mean for you? You gotta drink it and see if you like it. I would say it's the same thing with these razors, that the blades, that if you can read all about this one and this one's really highly reviewed and everyone talks about this, and then you go to try it and if you don't like it, well, what difference did it make? That's where experimentation comes into play. I feel like a real dummy because honestly these 3 feel not so different. I would think number 3 is the more aggressive blade. So maybe it's a Gillette Platinum, maybe it's a feather. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say number 2 is my vintage blade.
No looking.
I'm not supposed to be looking. And number 1 is maybe a silver blue or a Perma-Sharp or Astra green. So that's my guess. 1 is our sweet spot blade, maybe like an Astra green or a Perma-Sharp. 2 is a vintage, and 3 is our aggressive blade. Maybe it's a feather or a Kai or something in that family of more aggressive blades. So like Platinum, Rapira. How did I do?
They're all the same blade.
They're all the same blade?
No, they're not.
Oh, okay. So one other thing to note about blades, and again, I've never been to a blade manufacturer, I've never had a factory tour, never got like inside baseball information about blades. I did read something in a biography on King C. Gillette and the Gillette Company that was put out in the 1970s. I think it was called King C. Gillette and His Wonderful Device. I read that book, really good book by the way. And in that book, they talked about, and this is dated information, decades old, that Gillette in the 1930s, 1940s, started having different tiers of blades. Because the first 20 or 30 years of Gillette history, it's all just one blade. You got the green blade and the little green wrapper. That's it. And then they started having the Gillette thin blades, and then they started putting out other versions. You have like the rubies, and they had, the spoilers, and they had the super blue blades and blue blades, and all these different variations start popping out. And what I read in this book was that all the changes is as the ribbon is running by and it's being optically scanned, however fast, they basically categorize somehow quantitatively the edge that was put on that ribbon or that blade, and the best tiered stuff gets labeled as one brand and one label, and then like tier 2 is another brand and tier 3 is another brand, and that's it. I mean, you got to think this stuff is sheet metal that's ribbon form on a big spool, and it's passing through sharpening wheels, and as the ribbon's going by, it's getting sharpened, and then maybe the next sharpening stage. It's mechanized, but I can't imagine it's always going to be perfect. I could see that there's going to be gradations, and remember, they're all sharp. It's not like one's like dull as a doornail, doesn't cut anything, but there's always going to be shades of gray, and maybe they found a way to differentiate the shades of gray, and that's all they do is they brand it based off of this. Now there are different ones with different coatings. Okay, maybe after it gets sharpened, all right, we're going to send this one over for this coating, this one this coating. But I can't imagine that let's say the St. Petersburg factory in Russia, and they produce the Rapiras, and they produce the silver blue Gillettes and the platinum Gillettes, and the Astras are out of the same factory. They all come from the same factory in St. Petersburg, Russia. I can't imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that they're running Astros are like, all right, now let's get out the dollar sharpening stones, or let's get out the really nice sharpening stones. I can't imagine that. I think it's gonna be like a factory, and they're just like, run it. Run that giant spool that's the size of a car, just run it until it's out. And we'll see where the cards lie after we throw everything against the wall. And hey, these ones turned out really good. They're going to be branded Rapira Lux and Gillette Platinum. And these ones were okay, and now they're Astra Greens and they're Astra Blue. And okay, this will have this coating, this will have that coating. I don't know. I am speaking a little bit from a mustard seed of something I heard and read in a book, and I'm going also off just a lot of intuition and the thought of a machine shop and a giant production facility changing the way it sharpens it, arbitrarily for these different brands. Who knows? If you do know, tell me below. If you have factory inside knowledge and you really, really know how all these different coatings and sharpnesses are determined, I want to hear. And if someone is out there from a double-edged, razor factory, hi, invite us to come. Teach us all about it. We'll showcase it. All right. We have wrapped up the shave. I got my aftershave balm on, courtesy of Parasso Aftershave White Balm for sensitive skin. And it's time for the big reveal. So I thought number one was the Sweet Spot blade, something maybe in the Astra family or Paul Silver Perma-Sharp kind of a thing, something I would like. And survey says Perma-Sharp. Look at that. Anytime I see something like this, you just got to say, would you look at that? I got it right. I guessed it. I know my blade. I knew it. It's my boy right here. So I guessed that right. I knew that was a sweet spot for me. So that's number one. Yay. Number two, I thought this was the vintage. Let's take a look. Opening it up. No, this is the feather. This is supposed to be the aggressive. And see, I've always thought feather just kind of felt like it was too sharp and kind of maybe even sometimes harsh for me. So maybe that's why I equated it with vintage. And I was assuming a vintage was going to be harsh feeling. Honestly, it's been a very, very long time since I used a feather. So I'm not surprised I got this one wrong. So number two was the feather. And the one that I was actually really enjoying the most, obviously now by process of deduction here, is going to be the vintage. Now, which vintage? This was a Gillette Super Stainless Steel Blade, and it is marked S272. So 1972 second quarter. But that's actually really good to know. I've never used a vintage Gillette blade. I know you're going to say, what? Outside of, I really like the Persona 74s, the tungsten steel. I've heard people, this is even made in Argentina, which is really cool. This must have come with our Argentinian collection. I've heard people say they really like the super stainless, which are in the spoiler packs that you'll see like in the slim adjustable razors and super speed razors from the late 60s, early 70s. You'll see these. And now that I know this, I may have to start hoarding these. Because right now at home, I hoard the Persona Tungsten 74s because I really like them a lot. But this performed really nice. I think I actually liked it better than the Permasharp. So good to know. Now there's going to be a mass run on Gillette super stainless blades. This was my favorite blade. And it's fitting that it really felt great in the Gillette tech because it's, you know, it goes back to its home. The Gillette blade and the Gillette razor, right? Maybe they knew something better. But what say you? Have you used a Gillette super stainless blade from the 60s and 70s? Have you used the Feather and the Permasharp? What do you think all these different coatings mean for shaving performance? Were you also shocked that a 40-year-old blade outperformed blades that were made a few months ago in a factory? You know, at least subjectively, according to me, which whatever that means. That's all I got. I'm a little dumbfounded. I'm actually really excited. This was a cool idea. And if you leave a comment below, you're entered in to win this, the official Razor Emporium black and blue t-shirt. Thank you so much for watching. Share this with all the haters and trolls out there on the internet who talk about their favorite blade and why it's better, and tell them, hey, have you done a double blind test yet? Because if you really haven't done a double blind, you have no idea. Maybe you like something else. I like something else. That's all I got. We'll see you next time at Razor Emporium for all things vintage shaving. Thanks, guys.